right, so let me get the gallery view out here. So welcome to my studio and welcome to my channel. Today is our piano summer camp session number 4. So every week we have 3 to 4 students performing. It's like a mini recital, and every week we also have a discussion about something to do with playing the piano. So in our first session, we talked about practice strategies. In our second session, we talked about note reading, and last week we talked about interval recognition. And today we will be talking about scales, how to play scales, and what are the secrets of playing scales so that you can be successful, right? Okay, so anyway, thank you for joining us. And so in each session of our summer camp, we start with a mini recital. So today we will have, I believe, 3 students performing for us. And our first performer will be Levi. So Levi, it is all yours. So can you tell us something about you, Levi? Obviously, your name is Levi. How old are you?
5.
You are 5, right? Levi is a new student, right? So he's really just started. But he's doing great, right? So what are you going to play for us today, Levi?
McDonald.
Oh, McDonald? Let's hear it.
Sing
Good job, Levi. Thank you very much. So that's an adapted version, of course, of Old MacDonald, and we sort of improvised, right, a little bit, but I want to show the viewers where they can find this material, because I think it's a very good curriculum for the younger kids. So well done, Levi. Let me just do a little screen share so the viewers can see. So this is from Road Trip, right? From Piano Pronto. It's a great series for beginners. It's very colorful and there's a lot of illustration. And the pieces are, famous pieces as well as original pieces. This particular one, of course, is an adapted version of Old MacDonald. So anyway, we made it our own, didn't we, Levi, right? We did the moo, 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 right? On different registers of the piano, right? And you remembered. So great job. All right. Anyway, our next performer is Levi's sister. And what are you going to play for us?
Hi, my name is Letty, and I am 8 years old, and today I will be our guest by in the beat.
Okay, let's hear it. Thank you. Good job. What a happy song, right? So, it's one of my favorites from the Disney movies, and obviously it's from Beauty and the Beast, right? Okay, so thank you, Letty, and our next performer is going to be Cameron. So let me spotlight Cameron. All right, so tell us what you're playing, Cameron.
I'm gonna play Nocturne in G minor by Frederick Chopin.
And how old are you, Cameron?
I'm 14.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cameron. Was that not beautiful, everybody? I hope you are all super inspired, right? He did a great job, Cameron. That's the best you have ever played that piece. Do you not agree?
I
There
do
was
agree.
a tiny little weird left-hand chord right at the end, right?
Yeah.
Right before you play the G major chord, right? There was some weird left hand, but it was so insignificant, and you obviously did not get bothered by it, and you shouldn't be, because the rest of it was so heartfelt. It was the most heartfelt you have ever played that piece. It really touched me, right? And it made me feel like you remember what I was talking about yesterday at your lesson, right? It's that extreme sensitivity, that listening to yourself, right? Not just playing the note, but listening to what kind of sound you want, right? To come out of the piano. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time talking about your particular performance, but I just want to let you know that I was very happy with it. Okay, so thank you for playing for us today. And I hope that inspires the younger students. So, Letty and Joaquin, you guys are younger, obviously, you're only 8, right? But Cameron, tell them when you started.
Well, I started when I was like the end of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he started just like you guys, right? About 5 or 6 years old, and he's 14 now, and look at what he can play, right? Now, you guys obviously memorize your pieces too when you perform, but his music is long, huh? So you set a great example for the younger students in the studio, Cameron. So I really am very, very happy with that performance. Okay, so Cameron's working on level 9 RCM, right? Program. He's already done level 9 for the certificate of merit earlier this year. So he's doing the level 9 again, but it's a different program. The RCM syllabus is different. The repertoire requirement is more extensive. You have to play more pieces. But he's working on that, and it's good, right? I think to have these goals to work towards, and I know Joaquin likes to do the RCM exams as well. And I think Letty definitely should start looking into this program too. Okay? All right, so now we get into the discussion part of our summer camp. So let me get the gallery view back out. So Levi's, just started. He's probably too young to be part of this part of the program, but if he's there, he can listen. But we'll probably start with Letty. Okay, so Letty, do you know what's a scale? Because that's our topic of discussion today. We're talking about scales, how to practice them, and what are the secrets. So, yeah, I think you have played a couple scales, right? So, give us an example of a scale. Thank you, right? Oh, that's great, because I don't think you realized we were going to do this, right? I only told you about playing your piece, but so you already obviously practiced the scale, so you did a very good job. So that was called a C major scale, right? So I think what she told us basically is that, first of all, a scale is you can start on any note on the piano, you get to the next note, right? So that would be a ascending scale. And then after you get to the top, you do a descending scale. So the first part is knowing what notes you need. So C major is just all white notes. And then of course every key will involve different number of black notes. So that's why we learn our theory, right? So we know that there are major scales, there are minor scales, and then there are scales that have 1 sharp, there are scales that have 2 sharps, 3 sharps, 4 sharps, and so on, right? And then flats. So knowing the note, of course, right, will be the first step. Okay, so Joaquin, what else? What else do we need to know when it comes to practicing scales, apart from knowing what note we need to play?
Let's see.
And we do that by obviously learning our theory or just reading off the music, right? So what else?
What else?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what else? So what else you need to do? And like, the scales are, like, you need to like tell what you're like tell like if it's the right hand or left hand.
Oh, that's a good tip. right? So that's new. So knowing what note to play, number one. Number two, play each hand, right? So that's a very important tip. A lot of people forget that, right? They think they're just gonna play both hands and then they wonder why their skills don't sound good. Because it's important to be able to play each hand very well. So Letty gave us an example of a scale in the right hand. Can you show us a scale in the left hand? Any scale you know. This is Joaquin's turn. Oh, Letty, thank you. We'll let Joaquin play now. So Letty played C major scale in the right hand. So Joaquin, show us a scale in the left hand. Any scale you know.
Let's see.
Any scale you want. Thank you. And what was the scale you just played for us?
G harmonic minor, left hand.
Thank you. Okay, very good. So that's, like I said, a good tip, right? So to be able to play your scales well, right, it's important to know that we can indeed first play each hand separately and do a good job of it. All right, Cameron, it's your turn. What else do you think people should be aware of when they're trying to practice their scales? You obviously have been practicing scales all your life, right? Because you're level 9 now. You have played many, many scales. So what are some of the things you can tell us?
Well, fingering is important, knowing when to turn over to the next note.
That's a very important one, right? It's almost the probably not well, it's one of the most important tips is fingering, right? So when it comes to scales, the thing is we have only 5 fingers, but we are obviously playing more than 5 notes. If you're only playing 5 notes, it's called a 5-finger pattern, right? So, and then that's just called a 5-finger pattern. It's not really called a scale yet. In order to do a scale, you need to get to the next note, right? That's the same letter. So if you start on G, you need to somehow get to G. But you don't have enough fingers left, so you have to turn, okay? So knowing what finger to turn, that's sort of the hardest part, isn't it? Okay, so Cameron, tell us, how do we determine what finger to use?
You don't want to turn to a black key with your thumb because it's inconvenient and it's hard. And then you want to you don't always have to end on 5 because you run out of space.
All right. So you're giving us some things that we've talked about in your lessons when you end up having wrong number, right? Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. So you were saying you don't want to end up with thumb on a black note, right? Is that what you said? Well, that's true, right? When we play scales, we do not put our thumb on the black note because once the thumb is on the black note, it's very hard to turn over it to another note. So that's kind of the number one thing to avoid. Now, when we play repertoire, right, when we play pieces, obviously that's a different story altogether. So do not confuse this no thumb on black note thing with when you play pieces. When you play pieces, the thumb will absolutely play black note all the time, right? Plenty of times. But when we play scales, right, we try to not put thumb on black note in either hand. So that's number one, okay? Very good. That's a good tip. And what else did you say? You don't always start with pinky. Is that what you said?
You don't always end with pinky.
You don't always end with pinky. Okay, good. So in other words, if it's a white note scale, right? So if we're talking about C major, left hand starts with pinky, right? And right hand starts with thumb. And the highest note will be pinky, right? But you don't always end up with that. So give us an example a scale that doesn't end up with pinky, since that's what you were telling us, Cameron? Because you're the most advanced student today in today's session, so you probably have the most to contribute, which will be good for you. So give us some examples of scales that don't end up with pinky.
You want me to play it or you want me to say it?
You can play it or say it, whichever. Yeah.
F major.
Mm-hmm.
B flat major. B
So
flat major.
F major, in the right hand, we start with the thumb, but we only end up with 4, right? Is that what you're saying? So F major scale doesn't even involve the pinky in the right hand. You're right? So that's something to remember. So when we play scale, we don't necessarily always use every single one of our fingers. So sometimes a particular finger is just not used. You're absolutely right. And what else?
Is it B flat major?
So B flat major, well, do you want to tell us which hand you're thinking about in particular?
Hold on.
Do you want to play it?
Sure, I'll play it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, because your video is small right now in the gallery view, it wasn't very clear, but I don't think you did it right? So this one, since you're using it, we can use this as an example, right? So it's a black note. Let's talk about right hand first, right? So the right hand, if it's a black note, you told us already, we don't put our thumb there, right? So you can choose to start with 2. Actually, I should spotlight my other keyboard. So you can start with 2. So that's based on one of the tips you gave us. Don't put your thumb on the black note. So you could do 2, you could do 3, you could even do 4, right? Now we also don't put pinky on the black note. Same sort of reason as don't put the thumb on the black note because they're just too short, right? It would not be efficient. So either 2 or 3 or 4, it's up to you. Then the first white note, right? I happen to like 3 myself because 3 is a strong finger for me. So I like 3. Some people like 4, some people like 2, right? Either is fine. Either one of those 3 is fine. I like 3 myself. So then I go to thumb because that's my first white note. So that's generally a good way to remember. First white note is going to be your thumb. And we know B flat major has this black note, right? So then you have a choice, don't you? You could either go to 4 or you can tuck your thumb in. So tell us what you want, Cameron.
You can tuck in.
So tuck into 1 here, right? The reason I choose, and it is the standard fingering for B flat major, to put 1 here, is then I can have my 4th finger on this black note. And that's another general rule or tip or secret, is that if possible, there are always exceptions, but if possible, the 4th finger likes to play a black note. Okay, so let your 4th finger play a black note should you be able to do that. So if I didn't do that, see, my 4th finger will end up on a white note. So I don't prefer that. I prefer to let my 4th finger play a black note. And then I would tuck in again. And here we go, right? Okay, so that will solve the problem of the right hand. So that also answers what you were saying earlier about not using the pinky all the time, because in this particular scale, I didn't use my pinky, right? Okay, what else should people think about after they figured out the number? Because there's something else that people sometimes forget. Like sometimes people would play the ascending scale with the correct finger, and then for some reason when they go down, they would do it differently. And why would that not be good, Cameron?
Maybe you'll run out of fingers.
Well, so for example, some people might go, right? So, and then they turn to a 4, for example, right? Because they forgot, right? So what would be the problem if I did 4 here again? Tell me. And therefore, we don't do it.
Don't you turn around a bad finger.
But why is that bad, right? Because it's okay to turn to 4 and we do it all the time. So why is it not good to turn to 4 right here? What's the problem of turning to 4 there?
I'm not sure.
Letty, you want to tell us? Okay.
The thumb will go to the black note.
You are quite right, Letty. So you have been listening. If you put 4 here on the E flat, you're right. Your thumb would end up on a black note on the B flat in a second. So you had to anticipate. That's the secret right here. You have to think ahead, right? Even though there may seem to be no problem turning to 4 here, in a second or in 2 seconds or whatever, depending on how fast you play, your thumb is gonna end up on this black note. So that's the biggest reason why we don't do it, right? Because you're gonna get yourself in trouble of putting your thumb on black note, which was what you told us not to do. Remember, Cameron, right? Which that was a good tip. Okay, so if I can turn to 4, what am I gonna turn to then? So turning to 4 is gonna give us that thumb on the black note problem. So therefore, what's a good finger to turn to?
Turn to 3.
We turn to 3, right? Now we only have 5 fingers, so it's really not brain surgery, right? Because like I said, we don't put pinky on black note either because it's so short. So pinky is out. 4 is out because we don't want to end up with thumb on black note. So that leaves us with only 2 or 3, right? So what's the problem with turning to 2 then? Why don't we turn to 2? Anybody want to tell me? Letty? Yeah, you can raise your hand if you have something to contribute.
You run out of fingers.
Exactly, Letty, you're doing great. So, if you turn to 2, even though it seems easy to do, guess what? You're gonna be out of finger in no time. It's like all that trouble you just did turning to somebody didn't get you anywhere. You're out of fingers again, right? So therefore, you are not making the most of that effort. So what we want to do is we want to maximize every time we have to turn. So therefore, we never turn to 2. Because turning to 2 means you'll be out of finger again very soon. It's like, what's the point, right? So we don't ever turn to 2. Okay, that leaves us with the only solution, which is 3, right? There you go. Okay, so now is it okay to turn to 4? Or should I turn to 3 again? So everybody, you're watching, right? So we already decided this 3 is the best one. So now I'm out. So what am I going to turn to now?
Turn to 4.
Turn to 4. Very good, right? So what's the reason for turning to 4? Why shouldn't I turn to 3? Because turning to 3 is so comfortable. 3 is a strong finger, like I said. So why shouldn't I? Who wants to tell me? Cameron? So why is 4 the best finger choice now?
If you run out of fingers if you do 3.
But we're always going to run out of finger, right? So earlier we turned to 3 here and we ran out. So running out of finger is not the reason here. Because we turned to 3 on the E flat and we ran out. So now we are going to turn to 4. That is the right finger, but why? Why shouldn't I turn to 3 on this B flat? Because I'm not running out in a split second like if I was to turn to 2, right? Turning to 3 is perfectly fine, and it happens many times, just not right here. And the reason isn't because you're going to run out of finger. What is the reason? Say that again.
Black note is finger number 4.
Yeah, but that's a black note right there, right? So you said black note is number 4, because I did say that we want to put black note on 4 if we can help it. Well, this is a black note, right? I mean, the E flat was a black note, but we didn't turn to 4, so that sort of is not the reason, right? This is a black note, but we chose to turn to 3. Here's a black note. Why is 4 the best finger and not 3? Nobody has told me the biggest reason yet. Joaquin?
Maybe so you can not run out of fingers that shortly.
Cameron already told us that, and I told him that was not the reason. All right, you guys are not telling me this one word I'm looking for. It's called consistency. That's another big secret of playing scales. Consistency of fingering, okay? Everything we've talked about is true, but consistency is so important. Remember earlier, we were playing B flat on 4 on the highest note? And also, right, when I went upstairs, my B flat was 4. Remember, the starting note could be anything. We already talked about that. And then I tucked my thumb to 1, remember? Because I said I want to keep my 4th finger on black note. So there's my 4th finger. So when I went upstairs, I already assigned 4th finger to the black note, B flat. Not any black note, but B flat. And then I came back. We decided this should be 3. That was already talked about. So this is B flat. So the reason it should not be 3 is not because you're gonna run out. It's not because you're gonna have black note in a minute or whatever. It's because of consistency. That's the word I'm looking for. Because we already did it there. We already did it on the way up. B flat was number 4. So we're gonna stick with it. B flat is number 4. Okay? And this final B flat, you can certainly do number 4 if you want. And I would if I'm continuing on. If I'm continuing on, I would. But if I'm not, I can end up with 3 or 2 or any other finger I feel like. Because it's the last note. I don't need to worry about running out. Okay? So far, some of the biggest secrets have already been mentioned. What are they? No thumb on black note. No pinky on black note. Try to have 4th finger on black note if you can help it. And what was the last one? Don't run out. I mean, don't turn just to run out again in a split second. So don't turn to 2. And this last one was what? Consistency. Okay, consistency of fingering. Once you have assigned a number, right, a finger number for a note, you want to be consistent with it. You don't want to keep changing your mind. Okay, so let's talk about the left hand. Cameron, play the left hand B flat major scale again, slowly. Okay, really being careful with your finger choice. Oh, see, that's out. Unless it's my imagination. Let me spotlight you again. Try it again. Okay, so you forgot to play the scale. That's all right, right? So this session is good for you because you need to know the scale, right? So you didn't choose the right starting finger. Okay, so when it comes to the left hand of this particular scale, what finger should we start on, right? So we need to decide what, we have 5 fingers. Which finger are we going to use as our starting finger? He chose 2. Not a good choice, right? Why? Because you are gonna run out and then you're gonna turn to a white note. Oh, so you already broke one of our rules. Remember, we turn to a black note if we can help it. So if you start with 2, you're gonna have to turn to a white note. So therefore, not so efficient. So try again. No, just play the first 3 notes for me. Now you are right. Now you are right, okay? So at one point, I think I saw you do something like 3-1. In other words, you eliminated number 2. So that's another secret. Scales are very logical. If you decide to use finger 3, then the next finger will be finger 2. Scales don't go 3 followed by 1. Okay? 3 will be followed by 2 on the left hand. So if you are going to start with 3 as your starting finger, 2 has to be followed, and then 1. Okay, so then you are out of fingers. Well, that's okay. We are always going to run out of finger when we play scale. We just need to make sure we run out on the right note. Okay, so if we run out on this note, that's great because we get to turn to what? A black note, which is what I said we wanted. So this is the best finger to run out. 3, 2, 1. I have no finger left, so turn to 4. So why don't I turn to 3? Anybody can tell me that? Can anybody tell me? Why is turning to 3 here not so great?
Because when you go further, you're not going to turn to a black note.
Exactly. So that goes back to our previous rule where discussed, right? If you turn to 3, that may seem very comfortable, but then you're gonna turn to a white note again. Remember, we try to turn to black note if we can help it. We are going to turn to white note if there are no black notes in that scale. Or if some scales don't have a lot of black notes, there's nothing you can do about it. But in this case, right, we can turn to black note. So 4 is the best choice. Okay? Also remember consistency. Since B flat is 3, right? That's E flat. Why would you want to do 3 again, right? So I do 4, right? So then I run out, I turn to a black note. Bingo, right? So trial and error, right? If you turn to 3 here, you're gonna turn to a white note rather than a black note. So that's the thing. Scale, sometimes for the beginners, it's like a hard fact. Just do what the book says. If the book says turning to 3 or you should turn to 4, oh well, just do it, right? But eventually though, you need to think about it, right? So that will help you to remember why. Because if you always learn it as a hard fact, eventually there are too many hard facts to remember, you will be confused. When you only have 2 scales to play in level 1 or 3 scales to play in level 2, it's okay if you don't really know the reason behind something, you just learn everything as a hard fact. But when you are more advanced, it's important to know why. So then everything is logical, right? So that you're not having just a random number of hard facts to remember. So turning to 4 here, right? And then to be 3, and then consistency. Remember, 4 is E flat. Okay? All right. So that really brings us to, I hope, the next thing that we haven't really quite talked about. So out of our 5 fingers, everybody, we have 5 fingers, and I think I've told this to the people at least that have done assessments, right? Out of the 5 fingers, they are all important. Some of them we use some more often than others. Some of them we don't even use, right? But which finger is the one you should pay the most attention to? Who can tell me that? Because if you sort that finger out, you pretty much will sort the other fingers out. If you also remember those other little rules. Cameron?
Is it your 3rd finger?
It's not your 3rd finger. Joaquin?
Your thumb?
It's not your thumb. Oh, we only have 5 fingers. 2 people are already out. Can't be that many people left. Letty?
The 4th?
The 4th finger! Okay, Letty is right. Well done, Letty. So out of our 5 fingers, the 4th finger is the one you pay the most attention to. Now, what does that mean? That means you better know what note that 4th finger is going to play. And if you don't know, you can either look at your book, your music, because it's going to tell you, or you can do it by trial and error, by experimenting, using the other rules we talked about. But to save your time, I guess, right, for students, before you play a particular scale, take a look at what the note the 4th finger is going to play, okay, in each hand. Once you have made that decision or figure that answer out, you stick to it. Every time you get to the 4th finger, you better make sure that you stick to the note that it's meant to play. Because the 4th finger is the most consistent. Okay, so if you take care of that finger, the other fingers will fall into place. But if your 4th finger keeps changing its mind, like it's playing this note one time, and then when you get to another octave, it plays a different note, and then when it goes downstairs, it changes its mind again and plays a different note, then your scale will always be random. And you'll always fall apart. Okay, so taking care of your 4th finger, that's gotta be the biggest rule, I think, in my opinion, right? And I tell everybody that, right? So Joaquin and Cameron, you guys did not remember, right? But I hope, right, that made today's session extremely valuable for the both of you. Letty, you remembered. Good for you, okay? All right, what else? So we've talked about fingering a great deal because really, right, without efficient fingering, scales will fall apart. They will either be stuck or they will be uneven. Okay, so fingering is super, super important. So do not practice your scales unless you have sorted out your fingering. Knowing exactly what finger you're going to start with, knowing exactly what note your 4th finger is going to play, practice each hand, right, which we talked about earlier. That's all extremely important. before we leave though, there's one other aspect to playing scales that's very important. Does anybody want to tell me? Maybe you can, I will do a bad scale, okay? So why is this a bad scale? So let's just use the B flat major since we were talking about that scale so much. Why is this not good if somebody play their scale like that? I'm almost doing it on purpose so you guys can tell me what's wrong with it. Obviously that's not good, right? So what's wrong with it? Who wants to tell me?
Maybe don't move your arms as much.
Yeah, so basically every time I had to tuck my thumb in, I did this, right? And that's what a lot of people do. They go, how can I get my thumb to this note right here unless I do that? Because if I didn't, how am I gonna get there? I can't. I sort of have to. See? So every time they had to tuck their thumb in, they open their elbow, right? Which is not ideal, of course. Oh, here we go. I gotta turn. Oh, I gotta turn. So I gotta open my elbow. So we don't wanna do that. But how else can we get to the note then if we didn't do that? So what's the solution to that problem? So we already know the problem. So now we have to have a solution to that problem. Joaquin?
Maybe you can try and practice not doing it, like not doing the thing.
Okay, so you haven't given me the solution. You're telling me not to do the wrong thing. So that's good. Thank you for telling me that. But what is the solution, right? Okay, we're almost out of time. So I'm just going to tell everybody, okay? So the secret is knowing that, yes, as important as fingering is, and we are playing the piano with our fingers, we also need to know to use our arm. Okay, how to use our arm to help our fingers. So instead of waiting until I have to tuck my thumb in and do this, I'm already preparing for it. See, I'm playing my first note, but you see, I have movement. I don't just get stuck on this note and go, oh, here we go, tuck in. Oh, here we go, tuck in. I don't wait until I have to play that note to open my elbow. I'm already on my way. You see, as I play that note, I'm already thinking about the fact I gotta tuck my thumb in for the next note. So I'm already, see, in the process of moving my arm up so my thumb can get in. You see? So that is the secret. The secret is knowing that you need to use your arm and you need to prepare for when you need to turn, right? So your movements are fluid, right? So you don't go suddenly like this, but you're always doing this to help you turn over or under. Okay, so we touched on, I hope, a little bit, right, of the secrets of playing scales successfully. We had to end our session today, but I do appreciate all of you for being here and contributing your ideas, and I appreciate all the viewers out there watching. If you have any other tips, please feel free to comment and let us know and share with our other students in the studio. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week at our summer camp. Bye-bye now.